FIDE Candidates Tournament, one of the most captivating events in the world of chess, was held in Yekaterinburg, the fourth largest city in Russia. The winner of this biannual competition earns the right to challenge the world champion in a face-to-face match. Magnus Carlsen is the world champion and has been since 2013, and is in no rush to hand over his title to anyone. The 8 best chess players in the world battled in a double round-robin, all-play-all tournament. One of the main favourites was the world number 2, Fabiano Caruana, who earned a direct spot in the candidates as a runner-up of the previous World Championship match. The American won the preceding candidates tournament and challenged Carlsen for the world title in November 2018. Facing Magnus Carlsen in a 12-game match is like facing the final boss in a video game, but Fabi really gave the champion a run for his money. The clash was so balanced that all the 12 classical games ended in a draw, a highly unusual result never seen before in the long history of the World Chess Championships. Very much like in the 2016 match in New York against Sergei Karyakin. The match had to be decided in a rapid-play tiebreak where Carlsen shone and dominated his rival completely. Everybody, including Carlsen himself, thought that Caruana would have a very good chance of winning the candidates tournament for the second time in succession and have another shot at winning the title. This impression was reinforced by Caruana's victory at the traditional Tata Steel tournament held just a couple of months before the candidates. The American Grandmaster wiped out the opposition and won the tournament undefeated, 2 full points ahead of Magnus Carlsen, who could only be second. Caruana has been the world's number 2 ranked player for nearly 2 years before Yekaterinburg and began the candidates tournament as the top seed. Who would Fabiano's biggest rival in the tournament be? Hardly a surprise. One of the main favourites in the polls was the number 3 in the world ranking, Ding Liren. The 3-time national champion and the highest-ranked Chinese chess player in history, Ding became the first grandmaster from China ever to play in a candidates tournament. His famous undefeated streak of 100 classical games, 29 of which he won, stretched through 2017 and 2018. It was surpassed only by Magnus Carlsen himself 1 year later. During this period, Ding Liren won the gold medal with the Chinese Olympic team and reached his peak ranking. The world's number 4, 36-year-old Alexander Grishuk, was by a wide margin the most experienced player in this edition of the candidates. This was his 5th shot at the qualification to the match. Firmly established as a top 10 player, Grishuk did not baffle the audience by winning the FIDE Grand Prix 2019 and getting his candidate spot. He did it ahead of his countryman and world number 5, Jan Nepomniachtchi, who secured the second ticket reserved for the Grand Prix series. The FIDE Chess.com Grand Swiss tournament held on the Isle of Man in 2019 gave a spot to another Chinese grandmaster, Wang Hao. The 30-year-old semi-retired player caught the world's elite by surprise when he won arguably the strongest Swiss tournament ever held, ahead of Fabiano Caruana and the world champion himself. The same event brought a ticket to Kirill Alexienko, who became the 3rd Russian player in the candidates. The youngest of the pack, a 22-year-old St. Petersburg native, finished 3rd at the Grand Swiss and became eligible for receiving a wildcard. Among the limited options, it was a no-brainer for the event organizers, who picked this young talent as their invited player. Anish Giri was also born in St. Petersburg, but has long been living in the Netherlands and is a 4-time Dutch champion. World's number 11 at the start of the tournament, he qualified for the candidates by the least exciting path, by rating. The 8th man in the tournament was the one who was not supposed to be there, the top French grandmaster Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Despite being the number 8 player in the world when the tournament kicked off, Maxime fell short of the qualification. However, his opportunity arose with Teimour Radjabov, the winner of the FIDE World Cup 2019, withdrew from the tournament amid concerns over the pandemic. Timur's decision was announced only 11 days before the start of the tournament, so the International Chess Federation had to react quickly to find a suitable replacement. First on the list was Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Only hours after being contacted, he was already packing, and he was indeed the first of the 8 players to arrive in Yekaterinburg. What Maxime might have lacked in preparation was surely compensated by the extra motivation of getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But before the Grandmasters began to attack and defend, the International Chess Federation, commonly shortened to FIDE, had to decide how to defend the players themselves from the new threat, the novel coronavirus. We have agreed with Rospotrebnadzor, the federal service responsible for the supervision of consumer rights protection and human well-being in Russia, the regional medical authorities and other structures on how we will work on the medical security, including special medical examinations and necessary tests for participants. Several players have already done this, and the results of these analyses came back negative.
Yeah, it's a bit weird in general, and for instance, it's very weird not to shake hands with Fabiano or with any other players, but in a way it's very unexpected situation, and I try not to think about it. And any place in the world you can contract the virus, so of course it's not ideal to play under these circumstances, but in general I feel pretty safe here. And
there is a special kind of tension during the dispute of any high-level sports competition, and even more so at an elite chess tournament where psychology plays a huge role. This tension was more palpable than usual in the early moments of the Candidates Tournament 2020. Russia and Yekaterinburg in particular had registered only a handful of COVID-19 cases, but some players already faced logistic problems, like Caruana, who saw his flight to Russia cancelled twice. Ding Liren and his team were requested to arrive in Moscow and be under observation for 2 weeks before continuing their trip to Yekaterinburg. The players were also requested to pass a medical control twice a day. Despite all this, the tournament enjoyed a conventional opening ceremony with fans and authorities gathered in a large auditorium. But only hours later, new measures were put in place by the government. As a result, spectators were barred from the playing area. The tournament staff was reduced to the necessary minimum, and small bottles of hand sanitizer made an appearance next to the chessboards. Even the traditional handshake at the beginning of the game, a sacred tradition in chess, was now optional. Some players replaced it for an elbow bump in a picture that went viral. Something else happened then. One by one, all significant sports competitions were shut down. All of a sudden, the 8 Grandmasters in Yekaterinburg were the prime focus of attention. The first round did not disappoint. Nepomniachtchi and Wang Hao couldn't have dreamed of a better debut. They became the first leaders after defeating Anish Giri and Ding Liren, respectively. Jan's victory would prove extremely important, since later on, Anish Giri would become his main rival for the first place. In round 2, it would be the turn of the best Western players to show their teeth. Fabiano Caruana and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave each scored a victory and tied for first. It wouldn't be until the 5th round that Ian Nepomniachtchi emerged as the first sole leader after beating Wang Hao. The morale of the Chinese player seemed to take a blow, and from then on he was basically out of the contest. The 6th round was an important one, where all 4 games were very long and double-edged. Nepomniachtchi reinforced his leadership by winning a second game in succession, and he did so against one of the initial favourites, the world's number 3, Ding Liren. Nepo demonstrated that he was armed to the teeth. He probably anticipated the position that arose on the board and had studied it and prepared a sophisticated plan. He played a very sharp position that gave him an edge, and Jan took the whole point home after only 3 hours of play. However, the winner was not euphoric. On the contrary, he made the public worried, showing visible signs of cold during the post-game press conference.
I'm definitely feeling not okay, and actually I wanted to make some kind of a quick draw today. Okay, I got a couple of these tests, and both was negative, but whole atmosphere, it doesn't help you to feel healthy.
The drama unfolded in the 7th round, where Maxime Vachier-Lagrave took down the leader Nepomniachtchi in their direct encounter. This caused a twist at the top, as the victory allowed Maxime to tie for first with Jan, both at 4.5 points after 7 of the 14 rounds. But not only that, Maxime became the de facto leader, since the face-to-face score between him and the Russian player was in his favor. The Frenchman, who was not even supposed to be there, suddenly found himself leading the tournament. On March the 25th, Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the nation on the COVID-19 crisis. The following morning, the Russian government announced that in 24 hours, Russia would shut down air traffic with all other countries. The FIDE president Arkady Dvorkovich announced his decision to stop the tournament, and an emergency plan was devised to urgently evacuate the players. Some of them were on time to leave on the last commercial flights via Moscow. As a last resource, Caruana, Vachier-Lagrave, and a small group of the foreign tournament staff boarded a private jet to Rotterdam. Connoisseurs of chess history immediately recalled a tournament in Mannheim, organized more than 100 years ago by the German Chess Union. The future world champion Alexander Leichin took part in that event. The First World War began, the tournament was not finished, and the Russian participants found themselves in a German prison where they had to spend some time before being sent home. No one could predict how long it would take to battle COVID-19. Players and fans alike prepared for a long wait. Thousands of sports competitions were cancelled around the globe, sponsors and organizers suffering huge losses. Chess life moved to online. Internet tournaments provided the top players with the opportunity to earn during these trying times. But what they did not help with was the answer to the main question: who will win the Candidates Tournament and challenge the world champion?
The most difficult part was actually not playing chess, but these 13 months between the first leg and the second leg, and somehow you need to keep your focus, you need to prepare, you constantly think about other guys, what are they doing, how do they prepare, what are they going to play, because basically, it's like 1 year between 2 tournaments and only 7 games to prepare for, and you should be ready that you're going to face completely different players.
The International Chess Federation made a few attempts to resume the event. In the end, it wouldn't be until 13 months later, on April 14, 2021, that the players returned to Yekaterinburg.
It was my first flight, though, in all the year. In the playing hall, it looks exactly the same like last time. So when I came today and sat on that sofa, I felt like just 1 day passed in that year. Like I sat on that sofa yesterday, round 7, and today I sit on it again, and it's round 8.
The tournament resumed in the same way it had finished, with a change of a leader. Fabiano Caruana, who up till now had a lackluster performance, showed his best face to take down Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. An opening sacrifice that the American cooked at home took the game to a sharp and dangerous position. The French Grandmaster defended remarkably well in what seemed a minefield, but the effort took its toll. After 6 hours of play, and when the worst seemed to be already behind him, the tournament leader played inaccurately and bit the dust. This was one of the most spectacular games of the tournament and one to be remembered for years to come. This result allowed Caruana to climb to second place, while Jan Nepomniachtchi regained the sole leadership since his game against Anish Giri finished in a draw. Nepomniachtchi demonstrated that he was a more mature, confident and less impulsive player than he had been some years ago. In round 9, his countryman Alexander Grishuk decided to, as he himself expressed it, play roulette and came out very aggressively. But Nepomniachtchi took the most pragmatic decisions to keep the game under control and not risk a defeat. With every draw, the tournament leader was getting closer and closer to his goal in a tournament where the only thing that matters is finishing first. But in round 10, Nepomniachtchi had the opportunity to score the full point, his first win in the 2021 leg of the tournament. It was a smooth victory against the young Alexienko, where Jan took the fight to a position that was much more familiar to him than to his opponent. He grabbed the initiative with white, and with the most natural moves increased his advantage and converted it into a precious victory. The only potential threat to the leader seemed to be Anish Giri, who, in round 11, scored his second victory in the second part of the tournament, closing the gap with Nepomniachtchi to just half a point. Round 12 was one of the most exciting ones in the event. All 4 games reached a decisive result, with both Giri and Nepomniachtchi winning their respective games with black pieces. Jan played an opening he had never played before, surprising Wang Hao, who began to spend more and more time thinking over his moves. At some point, tired and demoralized, the Chinese Grandmaster simply collapsed. Wang Hao would lose the remaining 2 games and announced at the end of the event that he will quit professional chess, citing health reasons and the necessity of avoiding excessive stress. As for Giri, he played in great fashion and defeated Fabiano Caruana, ending the American's aspirations. For his part, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave scored a victory against Alexienko that allowed him to keep his hopes alive. Maxime would face the leader in the next round, so his fate would be in his own hands. And then it all ended. As if the nerve-wracking pressure reached its climax in the all-decisive round 12, and no one could stand the tension anymore, the next day suddenly settled it all. Giri lost to Grishuk, and a draw with Vachier-Lagrave made Nepomniachtchi a winner with a round to spare.
I was playing with the set of mind of fighting. I tried in every way, in every possible way that I saw, to complicate the position and to be tricky. So yeah, I think today I gave it my best shot. But of course, winning with black anti-ment is not an easy task, and it can very easily backfire as well.
Yeah, it was a very, very, very poor game. I think it was a combination of mindset that doesn't suit the position, combined with a heavy lack of understanding of the position. And I've made a lot of terrible mistakes.
Yeah, if we remember the last year, actually, everyone was afraid of this COVID. And as for me, I think on my last training session before the tournament, I got some slight cold, and it was, somehow it was going worse and worse and worse. And by the end of the tournament, I was feeling really bad. And as far as I remember, this last game of the first round against Maxime, I actually skipped most of my preparation because I just was feeling so bad. So I just wanted to save as much energy as I could. I was very shocked and disappointed when I knew that the tournament, is stopped, and it will be resumed sometimes in the future. But then some time passed and I understood that I was very far from my best conditions.
Maybe he was not the main favorite in the initial polls, but Jan Nepomniachtchi proved he's a worthy winner of the Candidates Tournament. Current Russian champion and #1 Russian player in the rankings, Jan also boasts rare merit. He's one of the very few players on the planet with a positive head-to-head score against the world champion. The rivalry goes back to childhood years. Nepomniachtchi won the World Championship under 10 ahead of Carlsen, and he has repeatedly outplayed the Norwegian in youth competitions. Jan has won 6 games against the champion in classical chess, with only 1 defeat and 6 draws. This is a crucial factor in chess, a mental sport where psychology plays a vital role. One thing for sure, Nepomniachtchi won't be intimidated by Carlsen. "He is definitely someone who can outplay me. It will be interesting," said the champion during a live stream when he got confirmation that Nepo would be his challenger. It took more than a year for 8 grandmasters to figure out the next contender for the world title. This tournament became the longest-running sports event in history. And the safest. The next chapter in this story will be written in Dubai in November 2021 in a one-on-one face-off between Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi to the best of 14 games. At stake, €2 million and the glory of becoming a part of one of the oldest traditions in sports history, the FIDE World Chess Champions.